Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing.
Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 402 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. You guys are so awesome for always being here, for always showing up and sharing the episodes with your friends. I appreciate you and I thank you. I hope you always know that. So Eric, my husband, sent me a podcast this last week. And before I finish that statement about what he sent, I want to say that I hope you and your partner encourage each other to be better. Even if you're both great, keep getting greater. And if that isn't your go-to plan with your partner, where you're encouraging them always to be better, why not? The best way to be supportive is by encouraging them to be their best selves, not by you constantly lifting them. That creates dependency. You want to encourage them to constantly be their best. And there's a million ways you can do that. I mean, if they're trying to eat healthy, maybe only keep healthy food around. If they're trying to get to the gym, you can make that easier for them, and you can even encourage them to lay out their clothes, or you can send them good books to read, send them encouraging podcasts, anything that encourages them to be their best. So Eric and I are constantly doing that. We're working on being the best version of us. Sometimes just when I need it the most, he'll send me a great podcast to listen to. And he did that this week. Now, he loves the School of Greatness podcast with Lewis Howes. I do too, but I've got a lot of others that I listen to. Sometimes his get by me. So this episode that he sent was with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And in that podcast, Dr. Dispenza asked a question, and he wanted his listeners to ask that question of themselves. And it is a really powerful question. It's one that I want and am trying to remember to ask myself 20 times a day because it isn't innate. So the question is this: is this that I'm doing loving to me? Is this person in my life loving to me? Is my environment loving to me? Anything about your life, is it loving to me? Are the people that I allow in my life loving to me? You know, is every environment that I put myself in loving to me? All of these things, anything in your life, do they feel loving to you? How do we make decisions from that place? That would look a lot different, I bet. It's easier said than done, I know, but I can tell you from experience. I recently talked about an episode where I was really pretty upset with myself because my weight was going up a little bit. I've maintained for the past several years, and I noticed recently that the scale was kind of going up, probably because I turned 50, and you have to make some changes. But I thought, okay, and for a minute, I let it get me down. And I realized, though, that the reason why I'm letting it get me down was because I was worried I'm going back to my old habits. And it matters so much to me and my health, mentally and physically. So why did I let it get off track? Why am I worrying so much about it? Why did I let it get me down? And I realized it's because I think I'm going to go back to being having those bad habits again. Am I going back to the old me? But guess what? That old me no longer exists. I decided a long time ago that is not how I want to live. So I realized I just got off track a bit and gradually let myself eat a little more sugar, drink a little more alcohol. I love sugar, but it doesn't love me back. So is that loving to me to eat it? No, it isn't. In order to show up for myself, I reminded me that I'm not that girl anymore who overeats sugar or overdrinks alcohol. That girl no longer exists. I just got to get back on track, which I did immediately. And you have to do the same. You may have different areas where you have to work to show up for yourself. Think about it. If you have a friendship and it's one-sided, or you leave that friend always feeling bad about yourself, is that showing up for yourself? What if you're constantly beating yourself up in your head for the mistakes in your past? We do that, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. Is that showing up for yourself? Is that loving to you? Everything we do is because we think we will feel a certain way because doing it. And you might say, hey, I do think it's loving to eat sugar and alcohol because I deserve it or I need it. But if you're really being honest with yourself, how are you going to feel about it the next morning? Not great. No one ever regrets not drinking or over drinking. No one ever regrets not overeating sugar. But you're the only one that can show up for you in a way that makes you walk a little taller, feel a little more confident, be a little more self-assured. Everything in our environment matters as to how we ultimately feel. I was talking to my big sister, and she's so enjoying making her pottery, and she was saying how nice it was because she got this new speaker down in her pottery barn, and she plays Frank Sinatra radio all the time. She says sometimes she's dancing while she's making her pottery because the music makes her feel so good. I loved that, and I laughed because I know how that feels. I told her about a story recently. We had friends over for dinner, and this couple that was coming, I love them. They're beautiful souls. Now, she's kind of fancy, which I love. I mean, every time we go to dinner at their house, it's the most beautiful table setting I've ever seen. And she really is an example of someone who exudes self-worth and also just goodness. I love that. So they were coming to dinner, and as a side note, I've started this practice of listening to classical music all day, just in the background. It's really interesting how it's affected me. When our friends got to our house for dinner, I had the table set really beautifully. Not normally set a table when we have people coming over, but not like this table. I really took a lot of time so that it looked just perfect. So when they got to the house, she said, "Oh my goodness, your table is so gorgeous. I don't think I've ever been here when your table's been set so beautifully." I mean, this was like a Tuesday. So I said, "Well, I had my beautiful friends coming over, but on top of that, I've been listening to classical music every day. And because I'm listening to classical music, kind of makes me feel fancy, and it makes me want my house to feel a certain way and look a certain way," which gave us all a good laugh. But it really got me thinking. Everything we do subliminally affects us and tells us whether we're worthy or not, even the music we listen to. This podcast, for instance, I feel like this podcast is so loving to me, and I hope listening to this podcast is loving to you as well. But it has helped me grow so much. At first, I worried that I wouldn't be consistent because I tend to be a little bit fickle with things. But I feel like more than anything, I'm showing up for myself and honoring the commitment I made to myself to do this. And it doesn't feel like work. It feels like a very loving thing to do. But also for anyone else that's listening, because we're all growing our mindset together. I thought I was doing it really to help other people, but I didn't realize I'm the one who probably benefits the most. I didn't realize how much of my life I spent trying to make everyone else okay or please everyone else, that I sort of put my feelings last, which kind of tells me that I'm not worthy of my own attention even. And so I think now that the universe sort of put this podcast in my heart as a way for me to show up for myself. And along the way, I'm helping you show up for yourself. And that is just the cherry on top. I believe a lot of you listening are probably helpers too. Maybe you want to save the world, always trying to make the people around you happy. But the biggest thing I can say right now is the number one person that you can help is yourself when you show up for you. When you do that, you become a powerful force in the presence of anyone. You showing up for yourself not only makes you feel unstoppable, but it also gives the other people the other people around you, permission to show up for themselves too. If you're a helper, you showing up for yourself will change the lives of the people you touch simply by giving them permission to do the same. You want to know if you're showing up for yourself or not? Look at your life. Is the future exciting? Look at your health. Is your body and mind getting better every day? Look at your relationships. Are they loving to you in a way that brings you joy? That's how you'll know if you're showing up for yourself. My challenge to you today is to eat the foods that love you back. Love the people that love you back. Show yourself your worthiness by only doing the things that are loving to you. That's how you show up for yourself. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.